necessary to brew Coors Light down as low as 34 degrees? Do the mountains really need to turn blue when your beer's as cold as the Rockies? You be the judge. Frost brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
Not a ton of offense from the Seattle Seahawks over the weekend, so I'm going to turn to the Oregon and Washington game, and in particular, and really leading up to the biggest game in the Pac-12 this year on the West Coast, what's going to determine it all, and that's Oregon-Stanford on Saturday. And when you look back at a play, and this was actually a successful play from the University of Washington, the Huskies, one of Keith Price's touchdowns, ultimately to Kasen Williams. But when you go back and watch what Oregon did, and this is also a response to this guy right here, and what's going on with Keith Price, and 6 interceptions his last 3 games, and what are teams doing? I went back and I just had to keep rewinding this play and keep looking at what Oregon was doing defensively, because it's unorthodox, it's not by the book, it's exactly what I think some people want to see the University of Washington do, frankly, with some of the limitations they have defensively. Why aren't they being more exotic? Why aren't they mixing it up? Why aren't they doing some of what Oregon's doing? And I'm not sitting here saying and having an opinion that Nick Holt should do what Nick Aliotti is doing at Oregon, but let me just show you a little bit in depth what the Ducks are doing to create, as I said on the radio this week, a real blur for Keith Price and a lot of the offenses they're facing. So the Huskies go empty, and we've already broken down a few empty plays this year. Nobody in the backfield. This happens to be Chris Polk, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, so 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers, and they run a pretty common play. This was down in the red zone, a pretty common play of smash corner, and they decide, instead of running a little 6-yard hitch route, that actually Keith Price hovers around at the line of scrimmage, as does Jermaine Kearse. I mean, they hardly even release into their route, and that really forces these corners to squeeze, and they come down in man coverage and squeeze and take that away. Austin Seferian-Jenkins got one-on-one. He has a corner route against a DB. Keith Price goes away from that. Ultimately, Kasen Williams, and we'll get to him, he runs a corner and out route because of the angle for the touchdown. But the ball in this football to really study here is what Oregon does defensively, because frankly, it's nuts. It's crazy. So you get down into this alignment, and they did a lot of 3 down. So an offensive line will try to figure out, and whenever you see a quarterback, and especially in the NFL, you can hear the microphones. You'll hear the quarterback say, 4 down. 4 down and 56 is the Mike linebacker. 4 down and 52 is the Mike linebacker. And what Keith Price in the center are trying to do is figure out who are my 4 down linemen, and then ultimately where am I going to slide the line to the linebacker or the 5th most responsible defender there to block. So they come down in this alignment, does Oregon. Washington makes their call, and they actually pick this up and score the touchdown. But look at what Oregon does defensively. Okay, they bring the end. That's about the only orthodox thing they do. They're going to drop this tackle out. This is a big 280-pound tackle. He's going to zone drop out. This tackle rushes. This other end, he also drops out into a zone blitz. So out of your 3 big, and these are heavies, these aren't backers, these are tackles and ends, out of those 3 guys, both of those flare out. Ultimately, this linebacker just mugs the receiver, Kevin Smith, who's trying to run a little option route, and he gets covered. He mugs him, and then he comes. So look at the alignment and look at the blur of what Keith Price is seeing. When he drops back, and the end zone shot did a really good job capturing this, where are my guys coming from? Who's blocked? Who's unblocked? Why do I have a D tackle coming out? Why is this D end up underneath my option route? Where is all of this going? What are my reads? And thankfully on this play, Keith Price forgot about that blur, focused in on his assignment. Kasen Williams got to, as we always talk about in these situations, right? All of this can go on, all of these blitz calls, all these protections, but ultimately becomes a one-on-one game. Keith Price finds his guy, Kasen Williams makes the play, and they survive the blur that can be the Oregon Duck defense.